Reframing Mindset podcast, where I clear my head of the thoughts that are preventing clarity and practice my speech, among other things. Episodes range from informative knowledge to funny stories about my experiences, and in the future, maybe include interviews. So subscribe and enjoy. Episodes drop every other day. Oh, okay. Welcome back to Reframe Mindset podcast. My name is Constance, and this episode talk about when 29 year old stuff. And basically, we talk about boom. Why I out there to listen because I just finished your university degree and all these stuff. And what you're going to realize is that you use your ways to actually get your degree. So this is the reason why I be like, oh, when actually coming out with a degree, it takes a while to actually find your and some people actually find it better than others and find it easier than others, and the reason why is because there's a doing a career that, or are you doing something that was actually, are you out there's a bar in a family or something like, oh, that's the thing about doing something revolutionary or something like that, oh yeah, no, it's actually that's the thing of like, oh no, you're out there so living there and say, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's easy, no, the answer was clear and all these stuff. But yeah, actually, I had to leave these stuff to say, yeah, this was the best answer given our situation. So, but all those foundational times is that all of it that you come in and be like, oh, you recall that time and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't want to go back to those times. Yeah, you can actually bring it up and show me me doing those stuff and be like, yeah, yeah, we actually did those stuff to reach here. And be like, oh, those foundational times to take. When we actually reach here, um, this are those foundational things just inadvert, just basically come in and be like, ah, cool, this giving us the life now. So sometimes be like, oh, every everything's happening for a reason. It happens for a reason. And it's like, oh, everything is not random. You know, everything is not random. Everything. So what happens that early in my just starting up my trying to get my work career and stuff like that. I actually get a work, a work at a start and stuff like that. And it was an experience that actually come in and actually tested me in the sense that actually it was testing me. It actually put me in a scenario where like boom, I got fired and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, skills. But one of the thing what actually was the fact that yeah, I actually got the experience was that when I was actually out there, and this is where bias comes in and be like, oh, I was always working in my country, living my reality, and it's like, oh, I was coming out, living, coming from reality to say, ah, the days are better elsewhere and all that stuff, not invested where I'm at and all this stuff. Always looking elsewhere, and it takes life always forcing you to actually become what you, invest in where you live to say, okay, no, you actually have to go there and become, um, start, start where we're at. But early in the career, what happens that I was up there doing it, and those foundational days come in and compound. And what happens that I actually leave the university and be like, oh, yeah, and I think about doing my major. And all this stuff, going out, you're doing it, and be like, oh my god, everybody say, oh, you're bright and all these stuff. Only bright people do this and all these stuff and all these stuff. You're out here and all these stuff. And it's like, yeah, yeah, that is nice and all. But it's like, you're out there to doing something that you out there to trying to trade apart that we haven't done before. Oh, we never been a degree, university degree before. Like, you could always be told what it is, but if you don't, if you until you reach, it, you don't know what it is. You still have to find the answer. So it's like, yo, what happens that actually I was doing the work, and what happened was that there was a time when someone coming on, I'm doing the work in the web dev field and stuff like that. And what I realized was that they actually was asking stuff related to my field to actually monetize it and be like, oh yeah, we can actually do this to monetize and all these stuff. But then I was out there trying to do it to get fun and stuff like that. But boom, that thing relates to the episode before where we be like, oh, we're coming from a country that hustles and stuff like that. So things like YouTube All this stuff. That's the reason why all this podcast episode like when you see me out there so doing YouTube and all those stuff full time and all this stuff in where I'm from. It's not the fact that I all of a sudden come in and born and riches and be like, oh yeah, we can actually do this stuff. You're gonna hear about the stories of me out there so going through farming, chopping canes, all these stuff. You might see me out there and I stretch out this up doing the YouTube thing full time. You might see me out there so and I stretch out this so doing the full YouTube thing full time. Living my dream life full time. That thing I have like Stephen Hawking and all this stuff. To be honest, and I stretch out this so living the dream full time. I'm like, what happens that yo, we actually have to work for these luxuries, Actually, so what happens that boom, what happened was that why this experience is important is that when it come out, it was telling us talking about all these stuff, futuristic and all these things, and it's like how we can and how we can monetize it. Because what happens that he's always a startup and all these stuff. He's out there so trying to build stuff to actually make money. So that thing about difference between going to school, university, and stuff like going to thing like it's in production. You have to actually make these things work to get paid. Those are the stuff that different. You can't be all this a lot. I mean, always say, okay, I'm doing that at my own time and all these stuff. You actually have to go out and do these stuff and make it work to get paid and all these stuff. Your dream thing and all these stuff. That's the reason why more while is coming out and actually paying for the luxury to actually dream is like, oh, I actually had to work for the luxury to actually get the chance to, oh, it's a dream. Like, that's the thing where I'm like, oh, I actually had to work to get the chance to even dream, to speak foolishly. I actually had to work to speak foolishly. Ah, that's the reason why sometimes like, oh my God, I'm always bashing the first world country. Like, oh, there's a reason why they're going on Jamaica 60 something to a country's 400 years of independence and stuff like that. It's like, oh, those luxuries that it's a thing they have is years of struggle to say, yeah, he had the actual luxury to dream, to speak foolishly. Me with a using reverse degree can come in and speak foolishly. And like, oh, welcome to my YouTube channel, all these stuff, and make it make sense and all these stuff. I actually have to go through those struggles to actually go out and be like, oh, and it actually makes sense. Coming from where I'm coming from and all this stuff. Do science and be like, people going doing science be like, oh, doing those stuff and it's actually not as many it's like, cool. You don't have to actually be out there to be like, oh, you're out there to being yourself. You actually those stuff are luxury, be like, yeah, you actually had to work on these stuff. And it's like, yeah. So that when it actually get right, you'll be like, oh yeah. Yeah, I can't hear and be like, yeah. Actually work for this stuff. We actually work for the fact that when certain people are like, oh yeah. We can acknowledge those days and be like, yo, boom, those days are over. Like, yo, we live those days, whatever we need to do with those days, do with it. That's the podcast. Be like, oh yeah. We actually live those days to say, yo, boom, when I see in real life, we actually acknowledge that I'm past. And it's like, yo, sorry and all these stuff, those life were lived. And it's like, yeah, we actually moving on. Like, we don't like each other in high school, we didn't gonna like each other in real life. Come on. Still have the same tendency. Still have this tendency to be a nerd. So it's like if you actually have the thing to actually tendency to do that, you actually would not be. So it's like it's best to keep things business. Like they will be the same soft person in real life if it don't go my way. Out there to tend to cry and all these stuff. It's like all those stuff didn't change. We didn't change. It's just that you're the same person. So it's like sometimes be like that's the thing about this. Where it's like, oh, it's best to actually acknowledge that we actually not going to relate. We actually not going to get along on certain things. So boom, we play ball and actually won't get along. And it's like those stuff will be like, yeah, we actually acknowledge that. Those are stuff that when I go through the struggle of getting this stuff, then in the working world now you're gonna be like, okay, you have to accept the reality of saying, yeah, we're actually going to live this life. and becoming an adult, actually saying, yo, we actually don't want to live this life. We actually live this life to say, yo, we actually reach it, we're not going to live this life. Like, yeah, that's the reason of actually living this life to say, yeah, we actually reach it. We don't, this is actually not a good life. That's the reason of actually going through sleep and all this stuff. So, yeah, we actually come out and be like, yeah, this is actually not a good thing. This is actually not good to out there. So looking at a high school picture and be like, oh my god, this person did and all these stuff and all these stuff. And then me saying it, yeah, say you usually bully me in high school and stuff like that, so I don't even care and all this stuff. It's actually not good for me to say that. Those stuff are stuff where actually be like, wow, those are the stuff that comes where be like, oh, you're living on your high now. When I actually reach the low, I'll be like, oh wow, that's actually those stuff. I'll be like, oh, boom, we hear that this that person. I was like, oh, people saying that. That's the thing about growing up, We're like, oh, people living those stuff, and it's like, oh, it's normal. It's normal to say, yo, back in the days because the person bullied me and all this stuff, because they did, I should be out there celebrating. It's like those stuff isn't stuff to be celebrated. Just to say, yo, those days were the days, and it's like, yo, I don't wish that funny person is like, yo, those days were the days, but we don't in the future, you know, we don't want to actually go back to those days. If you are a friend of mine back in those days and actually deal with those people back in those days, be like, yo, when you actually see me out there, you won't see me with them. And it's like, oh, those are the stuff that I try to deal with, be like, oh, they're choosing these stuff. So it'll be like, oh, when I don't see me there, it'll be like, yo, we didn't want to be there. We don't want to be there. So it's like, oh, that's the thing. We'll be like, oh, privilege that we actually work for, we actually work for it. So when you see me out there, so going out and just get this thing and walk through, yeah, I'm telling you that, yo, we're actually getting this stuff. Like, like, yes or no. It's either, yo, yes or no. We out there to getting these stuff, or we just move on. Those, those are stuff. So, they actually go through those like to live it to say, yo, when we actually the early in the career now, we actually went through they were actually asking me about using my degree now in real life to make money. And what happened was that, I didn't actually have any idea how to do those stuff. What was that? They asking some stuff, or you pass the test and all those stuff out this in real life, But we could even translate the degree into real life into making money. And we were told these stuff. That's the stuff we were told in the university. Like, oh, it's going to be hard to get a job. And so these are the reality of this going out and living in doing my degree and be like, oh, it's going to be hard to get a job and all these stuff. And it's going to be told all these stuff. But hey, not because it's impossible, you're not supposed to do it. It's just like, yo, we didn't tell you. And it's like, that's the thing, like, oh, we didn't tell you. So it's like, it's not like we didn't tell you. So we're actually going out and say, okay, you're choosing this life. There's a choose all this stuff. And so that when actually reach this point, it's like, okay, what the life, what life has handed to you is the life that you actually choose. So when you're going out and be like the same thing, like, oh, going like, yo, you actually chose this life. So same thing with me as well. Everything that happened to me actually chose that. Actually chose that. But it's just that it is the reason they have to say that, they actually don't want to go back there. They actually want to go back there. That's when you talk about, oh, boom, sing, yeah, the podcast and stuff like that. Those stuff, yeah, we actually live it and survive it, but live to survive to say, yo, we actually don't want to live this thing, bro. Like, yeah, we actually went to say, yo, we don't know what the answer is, but yeah, we do not want, not because we survive it means that it's out there so good life to live. Like, those are the stuff that we like, oh, not because we survive it, not means that, it's a good life to live. So that's the reason why I be like, oh, I go up in a country of hustle, and all these stuff. And me don't make money, don't make sense, and all these stuff. All these stuff. Boom bang prep to make us become what we are, where we like, oh, we are anti the world. We're anti the world, and we always reveling in the idea of being anti the world, anti rebel. We always have to be rebels and all this stuff. And be like, I like, well, when out this, I have to be always working for 30 years, so you will get a luxury. And it's like, and I see the people out there passing through, and it's like, cool. It's like, boom, boom. When out there see us, or see me, or for example, living the life. We actually, it's going to take years to actually see me say, yo, I actually live the life. You know, that's we actually live certain life, bro. We actually live certain life, but with everything else, there's a maybe like, oh, we actually live the nice life, then we're back to reality. We're like, okay, now we're back here again. And it's like, so even those nice universities and stuff like that, we talk about, boom, boom, people will come again, kill the vibes and stuff like that. So that those are stuff we actually realize. We're like, oh wow, things will change. It's like, oh, but you actually have to live this life to get the luxury to say, okay. And the out there to see me to be the basement warrior. And out there to living the nice vacation life and all these stuff or stuff like that. See me out there in the stretcher, bro. It's like, yo, this was the best. This was the life. And I would choose that life 10 times out of 10 than to live that life that the other person chooses. And that's the thing. I'll be like, oh, yeah, yeah, we actually live that life. I'll be like, oh, we actually would not be that person. 10 times out of 10. 10 times out of 10 would actually not be that person. It's like that's the thing. I'm like, oh, that's the reason why in the work experience and stuff like it's important to actually know where you are to say, yeah. 10 times over 10 we will actually not be that person. Yeah, so that's the thing about that. Going through the primary school days, I actually had the nice life of living that life. High school days actually was strip of that life and be like, okay, I have to deal with these people now. But actually dealing with these people and all these stuff and reaching the university is make me realize that sometimes joke is not a joke. Like when you see me out like that's the thing about reaching the adult world where be like, oh, people out there dead and stuff like that. And be like, oh, casually out there so talking about those stuff. Like those are stuff you actually realize in the adult world and be like, wow. Wow. That's actually because during those formative high school days, you chose the grave. Those days. You chose the grave that you were out there. So it's like, wow. Now you out there, so people coming out and every day be like, oh my God. So this person, the other times like, cool, cool, cool. I was like, wow. Wow. Because you chose the life. And it's like, that's the thing, really funny thing about reaching this far. Be like, oh, you don't know how they chose that life, but they chose that life. And you out there, so be like, they chose that life. And it's like, cool. You live by it you can change, but that's the reason for the podcast. We actually you listen to those life. You listen to those life to say, yeah. And you see us living that nice legal free and all those stuff life, you be like, yeah. Actually, I know you see me out there to be like, oh, back in the days I was a nerd out there so living those life and they were usually always stuff like really those that to say that we actually reach here, we do not we actually no matter how we can actually interact and all these stuff, we actually would not like actually and what that's the thing about being a nerd, you actually fully coming to this stuff, we be like that's the thing about we cannot serve two masters. We actually would not relate. I can go out there and telling you how to live this life, but we actually would not relate. I will actually suicide and that's the reason why I'm saying suicide and stuff like would actually be a real reality than living that life. It's like we could all this a coexist, but actually realizing that we actually would not get along. That's the reason about living on the podcast. The podcast is actually things that happen. Some of things that actually happen. Like, oh, reality would not change you either if you were the popular person in school, you actually be the popular person in school. if you actually come with me and stuff like that, we actually have to relate to the fact that this was who we are, and for we to interact, we ain't going back to 2013. It's like, wow, we ain't going back to 2013. Like those reality actually happened. And it's like it's gonna take forever for me to even change who I was. And these are stuff that actually work. I work for the luxury to have these things where be like, yeah, actually work. And that thing about boom, they call me Roman and all these stuff, call me rich and all these stuff. The funny thing about all these stuff is that when I actually reach high school, all those funny names actually go away. I actually see people who are living the rich life and all those stuff that actually work for these stuff. That's the funny thing about actually going through the high school is actually all those funny names you actually get those stuff stripped away so that you actually have to come back and recoup them in your adult years. To say that when you actually recoup them in adult years, bro, you become the person who you want to be. And be like, okay, yeah, we can acknowledge those days. We, we can acknowledge those days, but I was who I was. Was who I was. I worked to get this life to say, yeah, when we actually get it, and actually bring up my name and stuff like that. And that's the reason. Even the grave, out there to bring up the name is like out there state all the facts. Like, state all the facts to say, yo, that's the facts. That's the facts, and we don't want to attribute anything with this stuff. Like, we don't want to actually attribute this our life with anything. That's what other thing. Even me, even the sinning days, bro. Yo, I would love to live those sinning days and all these stuff and all these stuff. But yo, boom, all those L's that we get, bro, we say that you get what you have coming. Bro. That's it. You get what you have coming. Out there's a stealing and all these stuff, and then boom bang crap. Out there's seeing there, and it's like, yo, boom, bang crap. Everything with a woman and stuff like that, I make it clear to say, yo, boom, yeah, this is what I want, and this is how we're gonna approach it. Yeah, boom, I make it clear so that I'm out there in the deathbed and all this stuff. Like, yo, I don't want to approach it like this, bro. We ain't no jealous or stuff like that. We ain't no spitting on lines, bro. We ain't spitting on lines, bro. We're telling you that, bro. This is who I am. Like I'm the top of the class in that field or stuff like that. It's like we actually have to do these stuff. And it's like, cool. So it's like you can go out there and live the nice life. There's all the 10 million persons live this life, and that's the thing. That's the funny thing about actually going to my class and stuff like that. Like, yeah, when we reach the 13th grade, so let's say the new people coming in, and stuff like that. The luxuries that you see me also living on, so I actually have to work for it, I actually have to work for it. These things wasn't given to me on a silver spoon. I actually go out and work for it to say that when we actually go out and work for it and all these stuff and say, yeah, you actually go through and say, yeah, we do not want to live this life in real life. Yeah. You can always acknowledge it up and all these stuff. See me in the grave and all these stuff, but yeah, give the friends back there and say, yo, actually live this life to say, yo, I do not want to go with it. Like, when 2018 done, I always like to go back to the university days to change some stuff, bro. But we don't want to go back to the university. That's the reason why I see the picture right there. So see the picture on the wall, bro. To say, yeah, do not want to go back to those days. Because what happens that when I actually go back to those days, you can realize, because I actually reached that level. High school days, people actually can reach that level now. You're gonna see those people at the same level. So that means that you actually have to go back to a different level. Actually have to go back to those levels. Like, so those are the stuff that actually I see in the adult years where be like, you lose the privileges that you. That's the reason why the episode wrong. Everything has expiration. It gives you time to bring you back to reality to say, yo, when we actually go to the next level, we actually do not want to go. We actually do not want to go back to those places. It's like, we actually chose this life for a reason. All those L's, all those embarrassments and all these stuff. that we actually get those days in high school and stuff like that. It was saving us from the future of, of all the stuff that I actually experienced in university. After university, we'll be like, oh, you always are talking to friends and be like, oh, so this person did because of this and that. And people are talking about stuff casually. People talking about those stuff casually. People they're singing about, oh, we don't want to be the thing that die young. We want to be the legends that die young. Those stuff are the reality out there. So those are the stuff they always celebrating in a country, bro. We don't want to be one of the legends and we don't die young, like, bro. These are the stuff that actually live because those are the stuff that's actually sad. That's actually a sad reality to say, yo. Actually, we like those are the stuff that they actually hear in the ghetto. Are they are the stuff we be like, oh, these are we won't be the legend or die young, bro. It's like wow, that's actually a reality. That's actually a song, bro. Actually, if you sing that to celebrate, that's the thing. Yeah. I go into listen to podcast and be like, oh wow, I actually have to live this stuff to see this thing. Like, oh, we actually had to try to be the legends that not going. No, not dying, bro. That's the thing, bro. Back in the days, we didn't care about that. No, I have to come in and say, yo, you want the legends that not gonna die young, bro. Like, come on. That's actually what. Actually, we have to go in out and say, yo, actually have to try to be the legends that not gonna die young, bro. That's actually what. I always are listening to these stuff, we listen to all these things about. So the funny thing is that with this episode, we like, oh, I was doing the career and all these. And the person coming out and asking me things related to my field. And that thing, this was early, back in my early 20s and early 90s, early 20s and stuff like that. It's like, I use my episode because I'm going out reaching the end of that 20. I was like, those days, bro. Those days were the easy days, bro. And it's like, so it's like, yo, there's an experience those stuff and be like, what you can realize as a person coming up is that you actually can be book smart, but not actually the real life adult world is actually a adult world, and that doesn't mean that this can't make it, but just know that you the adult world is gonna test you to say you actually coming out boom. And I used to say that when I actually come out and live the life, I think we'll be like, oh, you see people out there living the life and all those stuff. That's really say how it's going out and living the life out there. So with their terrible reading and all these and it's like, wow. Actually listening to those stories to say, yo, wow, she actually came in and worked for these those things that cause struggle is actual luxuries, bro. Like, wow, we actually had to live this life to say, yo, you see me out there in a stretcher and a stretcher. And it's like, wow. This is actually better than living that other life. Wow, that is actually wow. We actually would choose this life 10 times out of 10. And be like, oh, that's the thing about those episodes. Like, oh, listeners, oh, we would actually choose this life than to live that other life. And it's like, and it's like when you're young, you don't understand how thing that thing is. Like, oh, you actually choose this life 10 times out of 10 than to actually, all these questions and stuff like that. Each year I look back and say, I would choose the fact that I would actually get asked those questions and can't answer it 10 times out of 10 than having the answer at a wrong place. So it's like, oh wow, that's actually the reality. We're like, oh, those are the things we actually go through. In those adult years to say, yo, wow, yeah. Boom. Re- when I actually do things like go to high school reading and be like, wow, I would actually feel out of place to say, yo, I actually wouldn't, I would actually be the same person, And it's like, yo, we actually would not get along. we actually would not get along in those. Like no matter how the reality go, I would actually be the same person. It's like, wow, that's actually no matter what the cars I get, no matter how much I try to beat it, that it's like, oh, we would actually be that person. I would actually be the person you see in the high school book. I would actually be the person you see there, and it's like, wow, that's actually wow. It's actually freeing to say, we actually would be that person. And the next level is when it actually acknowledge those things like, oh, just acknowledge the fact that we actually would not get along. And it's like, oh, actually, no matter how we can always collaborate and all these stuff, but it's like stuff would not work. If you're actually not a person that enjoy playing games and stuff like that, you actually couldn't, no matter how you out there so doing it, you can't always come out and enjoy playing. If you do that, like you actually cannot go down. You can't be out there so faking it, all these stuff, faking. They're playing game to get money and all these stuff, and going out using the person and all these stuff. Yeah, you can do it and all these stuff and all these stuff, but if you do not enjoy the things, you actually would not enjoy. Like those are the things where like, oh, those living those things where like, these years of actually trying to get those university people having them reject me all those stuff made me appreciate where I'm at today to say, yeah, boy, I'm looking at all those L's. Every day I'm waking up and seeing all those L's. I wish I could turn into W and be like, oh my god. All those L's, I would actually prefer them than getting one of those W's. And it's like, wow. You would actually prefer all those L's than to get the W for those stuff. And be like, yeah, those are stuff I actually realize going to the 30s and be like, wow. Every one of those L's is actually preferable so that I could actually go and play games and all these stuff. Play games and all these stuff. Even though it's I feel sick playing games and all these things, being out all the time, I would actually choose those stuff. And that's thing, sometimes people are like, oh yeah, we actually choose those stuff. Yeah. But yeah, we actually that was the funny story of the early 20s. Hearing all those people talking those ways, boom bang, I looking at high school people like, this person did people talking about stuff casual and be like, wow, we actually live those lives to see that we actually become in our 30s and all these stuff and all these stuff. All those casual stuff that we always talking about, and just have somebody else. It's like, oh, those and stuff they actually be talking about your stuff. And it's like, ah, cool. Like, all those funny stuff. I'd be like, oh, cool. Those are stuff they can actually go and talk about you when they actually leave school. They're actually going out and seeing you out there. So, oh, casual is a bit. I'm seeing you out there. So, actually doing this stuff, selling that. I want people that you actually see me working and I could actually buy it. No. But that's the thing. I'm like, oh, I'm out this a joke, bro. It's a joke. But this is the funny thing. I actually reached in that last year. It's like, oh, this is real joke. But no, we actually those nerds or stuff like that. We actually have more than $0 in our accounts, and we actually have going out and actually see the class clown, maybe the class clown out there is making money being a comedian now, and is actually making money. Oh, we actually have put respect on the class clown because out there is making bank, a comedian, and we out there, and me out there in the science, out there is still making $0, bro. Those are stuff we actually going on. Like, oh, it's all fun and games, it's all fun and games until all this. I look back on the high school picture and be like, oh yeah, actually had to put respect on all the names that we actually see and see, are they actually who they say they are? They are who they are they actually out there? uh, who they actually say they are, and it's like, yo, those are the fun and things to actually be like, oh yeah, yeah, we actually coming out and say, yeah, these stuff, and like, yeah, yeah, actually, they actually who they say they are, yeah, man. So those are the stuff I be like, yo, it's sad. It's actually sad to say, yo, we actually live those life, to say that boom, they're coming out, and those are casual stuff that people is talking about. And thing about it is that, yo, the funny thing about us life is that there's an answer to all those stuff. So that person always say, boom, there in the gang thing and stuff like that. You actually going on and be like, yo, bro. Here those reality, bro. If you're just playing games, bro, I think you actually become the same person. Like, you're just be hustle hungry, bro. You're just be hustle hungry trying to make, yeah, kind of thing. Even the playing my game playing days, there are people I actually have to buy games to play. I actually have to go and buy games to play. So those are stuff I be like, yo, those stuff that actually come out and stuff like that. I be like, yo, we actually have to work for these stuff to see that we have these things. So it's like, yo, when you live and die by a story and stuff like that, it's like, oh wow, actually going out and you live and you die by what you actually was all this already. Like if you actually so it's like, yo, those are stuff will be like, yo, it's sad. But the story about this relates to the story about, yo, early in your career you're going to come out with a degree and all these stuff, first class and all these stuff and all these stuff. That's thing about I said 2018 was a couple years ago. Yeah, fresh new people is coming out each year now. I see now those people from back in those days. It's like, oh, where they know and all this stuff. So 2018, my 2018 year is a year. Is a year. And what happens is that those years was something. Those years was something. Or in the real world, what happens is that, yo, you're going to see the difference between actually going out and learning and actually have to apply the stuff. Actually have to apply the stuff. And what happens is that you can coming out and ask, what reach this far, you see things like job training, and all those stuff. Those stuff are actually nice to say. Yo, we're actually going out and have job training and all these stuff. Know that okay, maybe even if you don't have the skills, if you actually get through, we actually have the ability to go out and get training for this stuff. But then gonna come in and ask some on the spot questions that you were actually coming and bro. You actually learn this in school. That thing about the reality of saying, why university is so close to the adult world. You're actually right there. You're actually right there, bro. You're actually right there to those questions. Be like, oh wow. A person actually came out of school and be like, yo, he actually asked. So I see the nice fancy lectures, and they actually came. There was an actual person that came in and started to actually ask me how to turn my knowledge into dollars, like, and asked me if I actually knew this stuff. Bro. I actually knew it in theory, bro, but we actually could even not even the fact that we could even execute it or anything like that. The fact that, bro, all these stuff we actually learn in university stuff, bro, we actually could do it in real life. We actually could do it in real life and do it for money and all this for profit. That's a business term for profit. We can actually do this stuff for profit. We just need to go out and source this stuff and all these things, and we actually could do it for profit. And it's like, wow. But the question actually, what happens is that that's the thing about spectators enough talk and stuff like that. Me can come back about 10 years or so later and go back to that experience and be like, oh yeah, now I could say that. Now I could say that. But back then I couldn't say that. I can't tell you why, bro. Like it's so far away, I can't tell you why, bro. But I think it's because I was always in the school, bro, living the school life and not living the working life. So in the working life, I realized, working life, I actually be able to apply the stuff that I actually learned. And what I actually learn is something. Sometimes, and that's next thing, we'll be like, sometimes the things that I actually learn will take you years to actually use it. And then actually years to actually use it, you can take years to actually use it, right? That's stuff about this degree and stuff like that. It's like, oh, yo, we actually was doing this degree and stuff like that, or being called nerd and be like, oh my god, what's it gonna be? Yeah, the stuff is not the wrong part. It's not the wrong path. It's just that, yo, your moment of glory takes forever to come. It takes forever to come. To actually hold out, to actually see forever to come. It's like, it takes forever to even get that glory. That takes like 10 million years to actually see what the hell. You gotta take 10 million years to actually see, to actually for you to actually use the T in the universe. I was like, those are some like, oh my god, it took me 10 years just to use the T, bro. And actually, when I actually use the T, bro, the T actually give her like a couple dollars. I was like, oh, a couple dollars. And I was like, oh, finally, bro. Finally use that T, bro. I know, no, no. That's not how it works, bro. That's not. I'm just kidding. But the T is on the plaque, on the degree plaque. Because so listen, you don't see the plaque here, bro. So you don't see the degree here, bro. So actually, all this is not seeing the degree as it. What happens is that you're gonna audience so you like take like 5 years or a couple years or stuff like that to say you actually use something from your first year. You know what happens that then you actually start compound and start using everything from your first year. And then after so boom bang crash out there, so all of a sudden you start using everything from your second year and all these stuff. And then boom bang crash. Finally you're out there so using the words that you see on the plaque. You finally out there seeing the words and you see on the plaque and you see boom bang quick with that and all that. It's like now when you actually use up everything, like now you actually see why you're out there to get a second class honors, bro. And now when you actually apply for the future stuff, you'll be like, okay, now you're out there so I see why you're out there to get the have to speak do this course, bro. Why you always have to do this? And it's like, and it's like, yeah, bro. I could always complain. I could always complain and all this stuff, but it's like, we actually work for this stuff, bro. We actually work. That degree was actually the thing, bro. Like we can't talk about it. That degree was actually worth it. That degree they actually put effort. And that's the thing, right? That grade they get, bro, is like they actually put effort in actually getting those grades, in actually giving you those grades. And I'm like, oh wow, that's actually wow. They actually put effort in actually getting these stuff. And I was like, but these are stuff actually raised in adult years, and like, oh, turning these stuff into dollars. And it's like, oh, they actually ask us those questions, and I'm like, wow, wow. you know, those are the on the spot stuff they actually ask and be like, wow, we actually going out. And we actually had to turn these stuff into dollars, bro. Give us some time, bro. That's what I wish I could see. That's what I wish I could see. But that's what I'm working towards, bro. So that people coming out can actually say, oh, give us some time, bro. Give us some answers. Actually, I get the time to get the answers, brother. Then actually I can go in out and stuff like that. But those are stuff like you face in your that's stuff about the that's the thing about this institution days or stuff like that. In those days, and what will happen is that you're insulated from the reality of those days. But when you actually come up on the reality and see those days, bro, then it actually coming out. And these are the reasons why this episode talk about exploration of stuff is important. Those days you actually see those stuff like, oh, when you actually go back to the new level, you actually go back for a reason. You actually chose this life for a reason. You see me out there, so boom, went to university and see me also talking about mental health and depression and all these stuff. And see people coming tough it up and all these stuff. That's the reason why I actually go in the city, you see the ghetto part and the actual upgraded part and stuff like that. It's like, oh yeah. Oh, ghetto part, we're gonna get this, bro. The ghetto part is tough with it top. The ghetto part is always tough with it top. we actually get the degree, bro, so that we don't have to toughen it up, bro. It's a speak our feelings, bro. It's a going out and speak our feelings, bro. We don't want to actually going out and toughen it up, bro. That was back in the 90s, bro. That was back in the 90s where we always have to tough it up and all these stuff, bro. We ain't in the ghetto, bro. Ain't we trying to be upper echelon, bro. We get the degree to be upper echelon, so that when we actually going out, you see me out there doing therapy, and it's like, oh my god, bro, all these stuff, bro. And it's like, oh my god, bro, you see me out there doing these stuff, like, yeah, yeah, bro. Because what happens that we're trying to be upper echelons, bro. When those ways of the ghetto, bro, is actually ghetto ways, bro. It's like, wow, there's actually better life out here. There's actually better life out here, bro. So when I actually see the get, and that's really why there's one episode where I talk about my third grade math teacher. So those math teacher, I was at those high school people from back in my days, they're going out and disrespecting the math teacher back then. And fast forward to then, I actually was doing the work. And the person actually told me that I actually smell bad and stuff like that. So I actually get the experience from the teacher and stuff like that, from the math teacher and stuff like that. I was like, oh, these stuff are actually adult stuff. They'll be like, oh, you're gonna get these hits in the real world, and you actually just come back and take the criticism. And think about it, all stuff sticking up. It's like, oh, they're gonna be the same you that actually smell by the time first impression last. But it's like, yo, you have to take the hits to say, yo, when we actually get the serious living those luxurious life, all those hits and all those stuff come up to say, yeah, we actually was working to live this life. We actually were coming to live this life and all these stuff to say, yeah, actually, we're serious about this. So not even us. Sometimes it's not even us now. Maybe our offspring or something like that, or even our future generation. It's something like, oh wow, the future generation is always living the balling life and all these stuff. And it's like, yo, we actually, yeah, all those days were fun or jokes, jokes we can, future generation can joke, but all those jokes, all those obstacles to see us always living that balling life. You see what I'm And it's like, that's the reason why I'd be like, yo, sometimes, my grandma have one name, a book of life, and all these stuff. Actually, I have to acknowledge where out there so going. Like, oh, even the person out there say in high school, they ain't say, boom, die by the gang thing like that. It's in the gang book of life. It's either in the honor roll or the flapping roll in the gang book of life, or stuff like that. But hey, the book of life in science, bro, it's the same thing. It's in the game book of life, but in the high school days and stuff like that. He died, bro. Looking back in 2025, we're like, oh, people them say he died, bro. But what happens that to me, actually living this person, that high school person, we would actually not get along in real life. We'd be like, oh, so it's actually, dead to me and stuff like that. So for example, you see me out there, say, yes, I died or stuff like that, and all these stuff, or stuff like that. Most of my high school people that actually relate to me and stuff like that are also. It wouldn't matter. The core team would actually match the core team. The core team that we have this build. Like, yeah, yeah. Boss drop out, yeah, we actually go with that. That's for that. That's why we that they have the core friends. But yeah. So this everything like that. But yo, the other person, bro, they're in their clicks for a reason. They're in their clicks for the reason. It's like, their clicks, that click is their support system. That click is their support system. It's not the fact that we all just can't interrogate just like, yo, we just wouldn't get along. That's the reason why in the boom. Actually, I listened to the episode I talk about boom, my high school six form days. Go back and look at thing like that. You did see my graduation picture, bro. You see me a picture of me with the basketball team and stuff like that. Problem is that by the time I actually reached six form, bro, that was the core that was the core group. the new people coming, bro. The new people coming, bro. Don't understand the actual word that actually coming to see them. Maybe respect that actually maybe get underneath. That's what I think of like respect actually. Actually to work for those basic respect that actually get for those. So sometimes be like you see the picture of me with on the graduate and that 6 pound graduation with the basketball something like yeah. That was basically my bread and butter, bro. The new people out there so in the science stuff they will get it on a surface level but you know, I actually love basketball. I was actually loving basketball back then. Appreciate the days of playing basketball and all these stuff. And so, yeah, those days were the days. Those days were the days. They gave me popularity and all these stuff and all these stuff. But it didn't change me. You know, it didn't change me in the sense that, it, it didn't change me. I actually was the same person, the same, like, that's the funny thing about actually going and get the popularity of the basketball and stuff like that. They actually go back. Yeah, people from my high school, lower school, they could actually go back. Oh, it's the same dude first. It's the same dude from back in the days that I bring back to reality. But actually bring back to reality and be like, oh yeah. In the idea where without this, I chose to be popular, bro. But popular at the sacrifice of not being smart, bro. Like out there so seeing you like going out and not matriculating to university and all these stuff coming back and seeing you out there so and it's like seeing you out there so actually coming back and to ask you and all these stuff for stuff and it's like going through the experience leaving university and interacting back then with people from high school and seeing where they are and so and realize, oh, when I actually find my way back to the university level now or stuff like that. That's where my bread and butter is. Even if I'm still out of place here, that's where my bread and butter is, bro. We ain't no gangster or all this stuff, bro. But and that's the funny thing, yeah. Sometimes actually I go, but I've been out of the university so long, bro, that we actually I can't even tell if I would actually feel back in place here, bro. But those are the foundational days that actually going adulthood to say that there's a better life out there, bro. And when you see us living that greener pastures, bro, when you see out there living those greener pastures, you will say, yeah, yeah. Those are the stuff that I can actually go back and laugh at and be like, okay. And when you're actually going out and you see people see me and it's like, oh, why I don't even see you there, bro? Because what happens that, bro? You actually, you actually wouldn't even see me living for you to ask that question if you if I actually was there. You actually would not even see me living to ask the question to say why the hell I even see you there to even do that. And those are and these are stuff that actually go back living going through university and talking to your husband like, oh my god, this person out there so and up working at this and that and be like, oh yeah, wow. But at the same time knowing that they're gonna reach a point where they're gonna realize that all those stuff were revolutionary once. All those stuff were revolutionary once. They'll be like, oh, when you see that person out there so in the supermarket for a couple of days and then boom bang quick. I ain't and all these. Cool, cool, cool. Just like us, we were actually back in those days, not that person. We're actually not that person. So it's like things and times change. Good and bad times change and all this. Yeah, that's the funny thing about the early working years. Where you be like, oh, you actually be able to some it's theory and practice. Theory and practice. The ability to turn theory into practice is going to be the difference. But you have other stuff as like you're gonna realize that our best basically this episode like the university days they actually give you the tools, bro. Actually give you the tools so if you're actually going out and actually do this stuff, you're gonna realize that you actually can go out and get the job. They actually give you the tools. So sometimes like we can actually bash those days, those stuff like legit. The more you actually go through the life, the longer you realize they actually gave you the tools to actually give the life that you just living. They actually going out and they actually give you the tools to live the life you're living, and it's like your choices actually give you the life that you always living. Your choices give you the life you're living. And that's the thing about living. That's the thing about living longer or living longer is that sometimes I could always be saying maybe due to circumstances and all these stuff. But when you actually this thing about podcast, you actually listen to me out there, so I'm going to live these persons' life. And if I make it out and still the same nerd, bro, and I get the masters, bro, you don't see me with the BSc again and hear me talking with the masters, bro. You're gonna see me say, bro, I actually went out and lived this life. Lived it, come back, came back and lived this life, bro. So when I go back and I get the other thing, bro, and come back, and it's like, yeah, I actually came back and lived this life and give back something to say, yeah, actually, it's actually possible for you to actually get past this life, you know. We pass the stage about this, so talking about, if I was the president, and stuff like that, bro. Actually pass that phase, bro. You actually see me get back that acceptance thing, and you see me also back in the university and stuff. Not only you don't see me in the back in the university and stuff, you actually see me out this have to find a way to pay for this damn thing, bro. You actually see me find a way to pay for this. What happens that when you actually see me come out on the other side, you will see me came back with all the answers how for you to get that thing. So how for you to get that thing, and it's like, okay, we actually got it. We actually got it. And it's like, there's no excuse for you not to get it. The only thing is that I can actually get you there and no more. We actually can get you there and no more. Yeah, but that's the funny thing. That's the funny thing about this these where it's like, oh, in the adult working world, like legit, like it's a test, right? Like it's a different kind of test, and it's like, oh, you actually out there, so have to come back and the same thing. You have to come back and you're not you're no different. Just that, oh, you have the same tendency. You have the same tendency. You're just not in an institution anymore. You have the same tendency. And that's really I would say. You always see me tend to go home. See me tend to go home. Because what happens that, bro? On the streets is actually people on the streets now homeless, bro, praying for a home. So they I actually went out into the street to say, yeah, I'm glad for the fact that every day I can say something that I can go home. You know, you actually have to live the street life to go to say, yeah, it's a privilege to say that I'm gonna go home. I pray when I go home or stuff like that. Yeah, people out there on the street. And that's the funny thing. Actually, you see these people. I actually live long enough to see to say, yeah, actually going out in the street to see this person say, oh, it's actually a privilege to say that we're actually going to go home. That is a privilege. And we actually live that privilege now. Then we can start move on to say, yeah, okay. Now you know that I actually go home now. If you actually want to see me, you actually have to meet me at my home. Because we're not in an institution. Then we can start plan from there. Maybe then you can actually go and see me outside, bro. Yeah, but that's the thing, like and stuff like that. But these are stuff that actually happened in my early years, and me reaching this year and be like, okay, we can actually call that fun and games, and be like, fun and games. But yeah, we actually had to live this life to say, yeah, we it's possible to reach this level. And what happens that when I actually break this level, see everybody was doing it, and no, it's not winning. I was like, cool, but yeah, we actually have to live those, go through those hells to say that. You have to actually go through those hells to say that. And you see me out there, so living the life. And it's like, okay, we always living the life. And you see me always going this and that. And I think sad thing about it, I actually lived it already. So it's like, it's just a cry in the face at this point. We actually lived the life and stuff like that. So it's like, oh, this is not for me anymore. We actually be like, okay, boom, we actually live the life, just pushing the barrier now. Oh, it's just pushing the barrier now. Be like, okay, no. But we actually went this life to say, yeah, we actually live this thing to say we actually do not want to go by this. So we actually go and see, yeah. I would choose my family 10 times out of 10 than living there. Like, even in high school days where floppy bro and all this stuff, I would actually come in and choose my life. The bad internet days, all these stuff days, 10 times out of 10 than to actually live that life. I actually have to go to see to say, yeah, we actually will go out and live this life. I say, cool, cool. We actually going on just to say, yeah, we actually will live this life. And sometimes be like, oh yeah, I can walk. And that's the funny thing about this podcast. Like, oh, we- back in the days, you could, a person could wallow and say, oh, because of this and that, me can't live that life, bro. I've lived long enough to say that you can actually get into the door. You actually can get into the door to actually get the better life to say, yo, you can't stop complaining and say, yo. The only thing you can complain to say that, yo, boom, actually push the door enough to say, yo, you can actually go in and get this stuff. Actually, can go in and you can't in 2025 no, you can't go out and say you can't. A person out there so can't go out and say you can't get a degree. You can't go out and say you can't get a degree and can't pay for it. Like legit. If it's the only thing they can do is go out and get a stupid degree and then come back and be like, okay, yeah, we actually get the degree, but the street life is actually the street life. We actually, but they can't say in 2025 those days, we actually can't go and get a degree. That's legit something. Like legit, we actually see someone from high school and they say they don't have a degree, bro. Like legit. There's actually the only thing they can do is go back there and actually go back and say, we can't the degree. No, not even that. They actually have so much experience, bro. The degree with 10 times them in the real world. We just like the only thing that I've come out of this of university long enough to show you that we actually can push it somewhere. You in the high school days, there's no reason for you to actually not go on the website and not apply and not get a degree. There's actually no reason for you to out there to say, me see you out in the street, even with a car and stuff like that, to say, you don't have a degree. I was like, what happened? What happened? What happened? I was a child, all this stuff, going to high school and stuff. I think that's the funny thing, bro. We actually go to high school and talk about someone dead and all this stuff. They actually go and talk about someone else from the high school and be like, oh, this person have his degree now, after finding his stuff, trying to get back into the masters thing and stuff like that. So you have the duality of the stuff, of me, of a one reality of a person saying, we bought in a gang and died and all this. We actually go back to another group and be like, oh yeah, you actually finish the degree, you actually put in the work, and actually try push his thing now in the 4th year of ownership, try start out this stuff and upgrade security and all these stuff and all these things. And it's like, oh wow, wow. And what happened is that for a while, what happened is that he actually stopped being a spectator for a while and became a player. So all those more talk you actually hear from back in the days, you actually see him living it and be like, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's like, on the other side of it, you see the person out there, so living the gang life and be like, oh yeah, he actually dead by gunfight. But when actually come in and pull up the name of the other person, be like, oh yeah, he actually graduated with the university doing this. Actually looking to go back to, go back to higher level and doing it right. That's the thing. Going to higher level is one thing. Actually doing it right is another thing. And it's like, and actually provide the formula now to actually go to this new level the right way. Actually go back to this new level and living this nice life and stuff like that. So what we'll actually see is that actually see people in my year complaining about this and that. Couldn't get at all these stuff. It's like yeah, in 2025 all those people can't say they did have the formula. Can't say they didn't see me do it, bro. They can't say they didn't see me do it. The only thing they can say, bro, we actually get it, so we actually back on the same level. That's the only thing I can say. We actually get it now, so we're back to the same level. When we're back to the same level now, it's for me to actually go back and say, okay, time for me to go back again. And come on, rise to the top again, bro. Rise to the top again. So yeah. But even we don't rise to the top, bro, like appreciate the thing is that comparison the two people. It was all appreciating the hut you build. Like yo, when actually come in and see me in my hut or whatever, you'll be like, okay, yeah, actually living this look. This is my life. You don't see me out there to complain about yo, you see me out there, we actually live and die. Like this is all you see me out there. This is all it is. This is actually my hut now. It's like yo. Come in and that thing about adult world. That's the thing about adult world. You actually go back and see renting and all these stuff. And what I don't like or what I don't like is actually they're actually telling you and all these stuff. It's for you to actually go back and have it, go back to your family and say, okay, yeah, we're coming back with the formula. You have to go back to the drawing board with the formula and all these stuff to sort out yourself to say that when you actually come back as this life, whatever and all, this is the life we're also living. This is the life we're also living. It's like, okay, I have to chill out and live with it. Clear rule what enter the domain and what happens that when I create a domain, when I create a domain, you come in and you live by the person's rule in the domain. And it's like if you actually don't can't manage the rules, you actually have just walk out. You actually just walk out of the rule because you can't manage the rules. So it's like oh so it's like oh we actually have to come out of the domain and say cool. Stuff like that. Those were the early lessons. They be like from this degree. Getting the degree is one thing. When actually I leave with a degree now you're gonna realize that you actually come out and say, oh, you actually can do stuff and ask how to do stuff with your degree. And be like, oh wow, you actually could do it. And what happened is that the same thing from all year, I'm talking about the same person in high school, talking about boom bang quick, couple them dying gunfight. University level now you're gonna see people out there from those days coming like, oh, this person applied nothing from what he actually did from those years and all these stuff. There's a higher level of conversation like, oh yeah, people the things like back in the days there were people talk about Nobel Prize and all that stuff that was even possible all this. You guys see people actually from my year that actually get those stuff already and be like, oh yo, they actually did it. The only difference is that when they actually get it, we ain't high school course anymore, be like, oh we actually can actually put in the work and get it, you actually get it, can put the high school on a different level and stuff like that. But now actually seeing it reaching that level, like, oh, the cream of the crop rises at the top. It's like, okay, no, we actually see. No, we're always not looking at pretty stuff now. We're always looking at getting a Nobel Prize now. Because we actually see a person from my year. Not to want to get the stuff, we actually get the Nobel Prize. And it's like, wow, bro. We actually get the Nobel Prize, bro. And it's like, I usually see those stuff on TV. And every time you that there was somebody that actually born my year that actually go out and get the Nobel Prize, bro. And it's like, what, bro? And all that stuff, I'll be like actually reaching the higher level and come back. It's like, yo, the high school days were the high school days, and the reason why I skip the high school days and get a degree and stuff like that. Say, when I come back and see the same high school person, be like, oh, when I actually go back to the university days, this is where bread and butter is, bro. This is why this is why I actually will see me here, bro. This is why I actually see me here. This is why the new people that came into the high school and stuff like that, they would act that coming and leave my feet, they see me on the basketball court and stuff That was my bread and butter and all these stuff. That was my claim to fame and all these stuff. The science, you'd actually realize that the science thing was not actually wasn't my thing, but then some flop happened, and I came back, but yo, basketball was my bread and butter, bro. You know, those were actually our fun stuff. And when I see me as living the privileged life of PTA, maybe playing some ball and all these stuff, maybe doing some science and all these stuff and all these things. See me as doing all those three things, and all those teachers around that see me doing all those three things. Like, oh, I actually work to get the privilege to do this stuff, and that's the thing. And the podcast is a way to say, yeah, it wasn't for those experiences, I would not live this. I would always be if it wasn't for the experiences, all those obstacles that I out there so bashing in this day to this day, like if it wasn't for those stuff, I would actually not be. I would also be out there so on crack doing these stuff. I would also be on crack out there so playing games and all these stuff and all these stuff and crack is something I feel during science and stuff like that. But it's like oh, would also be on crack doing those stuff. But sadly, even though it's struggle the struggle and all these stuff and all those stuff. Back in those years, we'd be like, cool, cool. Um, those basic years of those struggle, we'd be like, oh, I would choose my path 10 times out of 10 to get where I'm at now, to get the luxury of me playing games and all these stuff. And people doing my stuff to say, actually, go this path to say that when you actually reach the level to actually going out and playing these games and stuff like that, you will not waste, you will not appreciate the day. You will actually not be one of those persons that always talking about boom bang quick. You actually will going out and say boom when the people coming out and from those years see you know playing the game and stuff like that. Oh, you actually work toward. You actually work to get these games. You actually work to get these stuff these luxuries in in our bank and all these luxuries. Like yeah, you actually work for these stuff. It's like oh you can always complain and all these stuff. It's like, yeah, we actually work to be the nerds. To say that when we actually be the nerds and stuff like that, you can born a nerd and all these stuff. No, I actually had to put in the work to become the nerd, to become the basement warrior, the Twitter warrior, all these stuff. We actually had to work to get become these luxuries. Actually I had to work to get these luxuries to say, yeah, when you see me out there in the street and be like, yeah, we can always chit chat and all these stuff. But I knowingly know that, how the high school days played out, you will play out the same way. You will play out the same way. They play out the same way, the teacher will do the same thing, we actually move and all these stuff. Only difference is that either you want to change and actively say, oh, the life that I'm living is actually wrong. I want to looking at the high school photos and say, yo, bro, this me, Colin, now is actually living the life that actually I want. So I actually have to do this stuff. It, to actually reach this level. I actually have to come back and change my trajectory now to actually reach this level now. That's the only thing I'm going with. Like, oh yeah, we actually have to change our trajectory now to actually reach this level. To say, yeah, go back here, go back here. You can't. That's the thing about when the high school now. Actually, the high school yearbook now becomes a reference now. Even if I'm not in the picture, it becomes a reference to say, okay, yo, why the hell, you don't see me there, bro? I said, bro, actually, if I was actually there, you will not hear about this podcast. You will not actually hear about this podcast. You will also in the grave, bro. Here, see me going on Facebook and hear all the best ideas are in the grave. And see me out there so in the grave, bro. That's what you actually see. Bro. All the best ideas are in the grave and see me actually in the grave, bro. So that's actually yeah, so that's the basic thing. We'll be like, oh yeah, the working years, it's going to be a year because you actually go through the high school days and stuff like that. And what happens that from the high school days, you're the nerd and stuff like that. Boom, you go to university and stuff like that, and you actually become yourself. And what happens that high school people see those days and be like, oh my god, it's the same feeling from back then, being this person now, all these stuff. But hey, I would actually able to become that person if I didn't become at the top of my feet. I'm thinking about it, if I didn't rise to the top, me becoming that person you see in university and stuff like that will be half and not. It will be out there so flop. It make zero sense. It be like, why the hell we all just listen to this podcast? Why the hell we also listen to this podcast? The only reason we actually become, actually became that person, we actually rise to the top. So it's like, we actually validated what we the privilege. So we're coming out now. Yes, me out it's playing games and all these stuff. I'm gonna tell them that, bro, yo, I don't recommend you playing games in high school or stuff like that, cause maybe out there so you would even reach my level. You don't hit me. That's the reason why I be like sometimes be like, oh, people is talking about multitasking and all the and stuff and then boom bang quick I see them out in the street. And it's like, bro, something is wrong, bro. It's like, yo, there's a reason why multitasking is not the method. There's a reason why multitasking is. There's a reason why we go back to the high school picture. The person that says all of fame, bro, says reason is fundamental, bro. Because no matter how we actually reach the university level, and the first thing they actually told us was reading for my degree, bro. No matter how I actually took it, I actually had to read, and I actually had to learn how to read, bro. So it's like, yo, the person on the thing said, he actually said, reading is fundamental. So it's like, and that's the thing about the popular personalities. I could actually go back there and actually see them and all these stuff and talking about, yo, it's actually not relating in real life, but the person at the top say, yo, reading is fundamental, and they actually know to say, yo. So when I actually see all those people say, yo, okay, yeah. Actually acknowledge that, oh, that person at the top, but yo, in real life, no matter how much we out this on the same level, we're actually different. And that's the thing about it. Like, no matter how much you reach my level, all these stuff, actually different. Actually, I actually like what we like. I like what I like. You know, put in the work. I have to put in the same work, same way. You get the same. The high school would play out the same way. I would always be the same crime person. I would actually be the same person, the same crime person, bro. I would actually be the same person. I would actually be the same thing. I would actually be we am. I would actually still have to put in the work to get the license. I mean, get the license. I would actually put in the license to say, yo, I would 10 times out of 10 recommend you not buying the license, going through and learning the stuff than do it's going on run about buying license and stuff like that. I would actually go through the first lesson to say, yeah, go through and learn how to drive than actually run around about buying license. I mean, out there's a senior in the hospital pushing you out and stuff like that. 10 times out of 10 out there, so running up and down, crashing and all these stuff. Be like, yo, bro, there's a reason why they out there so going out and yeah, can I go out and bite and all these stuff and be like, play the hero and be like, oh my god, they've been driving since he's a kid, this and that and that. Go out and actually get it the full way so that yo, I don't see you up there in the hospital, bro. I don't see what you're supposed to go fund me, bro. I don't see what you're supposed to go fund me about me. Only person should be posting for go fund me is me, bro. It's me out there so driving. Say, bro, you know, say I actually made it in the hospital, bro, because I actually flop and all these stuff. The only laughing actually be me, bro. Yo, because what happens that you know there's a laughing all these years, bro. All these years. I seen the guys out there so living this life, bro. So when you actually see me, when you see me out there living that life, the only thing that should happen is you telling me that okay, not do this or not do that. The only thing that you're already doing, say, oh, not do this, not do that. Don't flop. don't flat like don't change now. Like that's don't change now. Don't change now. You actually chose this life, you know. Don't change now. It was working for you. Just keep on doing it. Just keep on doing it, bro. Like this is a life. If we didn't choose against the life chose us. Like, don't change up now, bro. You want this to live the life. Now you're free. Now you're free. Now you're free. Now it's like, oh yeah. Now you actually come. That's the thing about going to the university, you know. Actually learn. Actually have people that tell me that the prison life was actually a better life than the adult life. You know, 'cause you actually get free food. You actually get free food. That's the thing where I talk about Armor is a praise in the great Adija farmer. When they actually come out and be like, yo, we actually learned about you. You actually learned about you and be like, yo, you're actually living the ball in life. You're out there living the ball in life. We actually learned the fact that you're actually living the ball in life out there in prison. And that we actually learned that. It's like, oh, you're always getting free food every day. I always recording all these stuff and all these stuff. So, now you come on, oh, in a prison, like, we actually learn about you. That's the thing about actually going to university. Oh, we actually learn how the hell you were out there so in the prison making the millions. No, 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 it's like, okay, no, you're out there. So what the hell, no. No, we actually found how the hell we're going to get those millions. Or get those millions. Because we actually need some of those millions too. So it's like, yo. Yeah, so it's like fun and games, you know. But we actually was learning about few people. It's like, oh, Usain Bolt and all this. We learn all these stuff in ultimate. We actually learn. That's the fun thing about going to university. We did actually validate it. We actually learned about you. We actually learned why the hell you are the way you are. So you can't run up these stuff. We actually were learning. We were there in the basement. We were there in the basement just waiting and just actually listening and all those days at the bottom, you know, all those days at the bottom, you out there, so just taking notes, you know, bro. Seeing up there at the top and be like, I know there's like crying about out there, so you're losing some stuff and be like, the podcast is there. The podcast is there telling you all the answers. It's just that we wasn't big enough to tell it for you to execute the answers. It wasn't big enough, you know, but we're there, we're actually learning, bro. We're actually learning about it. Yeah, so now we actually come in and we see the comment and I know it's like okay, now the boss free and you actually get the visa to fly out. Now actually can study and how the hell it but man say thanks to some boy named Boone. Thanks to somebody named Boone. We actually find this Boone now. And maybe thanks to him we can actually board the flight. Thanks to this person, that's how you actually going now. That's the thing about having a degree, you know. So it's just seeing the people it's like coming out and be like, oh, at that time that now we actually going to sit down and be like, it was actually through the prison grade. Like, how the hell my mother actually reached the prison? Bro? How the hell, bro? We were actually in lockdown and all these stuff like that. That's it. That's the thing. We're actually coming out and reaching the university level, getting the university degree is like, where you can actually dissect this thing and say, thanks to this person named Booney, bro. Who the hell is this Booney, bro? That's his alias, bro. I can actually find his real name. I was like, thanks to this person named Booney, bro. So find this Booney, follow his formula, and then now we can actually board the flight to get to America. And it's like, we actually need to not find this person named Booney, bro. And it's like, this. So that's it. That's the thing about actually getting in the adult world. In the adult world, you're actually gonna take a the stuff that you actually learn. You actually have to apply it in real life. You're actually going to apply it in real life. As but sometimes it's gonna take a while to actually come out and actually be able to do this stuff in real life and all these things. But just those days of actually learning how to go to do it in real life and actually go back and out this telling those funny stories. The only thing about the funny story is that you actually lived it. You actually lived it and stuff like that. That's the reason why even though you actually lived it to say, yeah, we actually Yeah, we actually live those days, and you actually become that person. So it's like, oh yeah. But so when you actually see me out as a board the flight, bro, you're gonna say, yeah, thanks to that person in Boney, that person in no, you're gonna thank no, you're gonna say thanks to Boney, all of us, all of Jamaica can now board the flight. Thanks to Boney, all of Jamaica can. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks to Boney, all of Gaza, all of Gaza can actually board the flight. That's it. Thanks to Booney, bro, all of Gaza can actually board the flight. We'd have to actually use a different avenue to actually board the flight. But thanks to Booney, all of Gaza now can actually board the flight. So that's the current event. Cause yeah, cause the Gaza fan was actually helping them board the flight, helping them get out. So you can't say boss can't free and then not help them board the flight number. Yeah, but that's the thing. I'll be like, freedom is actually a funny thing. Bro. Freedom is actually a funny thing. I'll be like, oh, you get complex and different. Like you know, say freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free. So that's the reason why I'd be like, oh, the luxuries that we always work for and all these stuff. If you always living that balling life and all these stuff. And that thing you always living that balling life. We didn't get these stuff free. These stuff didn't wasn't silver spoon. Was no silver spoon. You always going out and see you always living this free life and all this stuff. You actually have to work for it. You actually have to work for it and say, yeah, yeah. You actually have to work for it and say, okay. When we get it, and it's like, and that's thing, you actually give it the farmer and be like, oh, and because yeah, so those are funny stuff. Those are funny stuff. And be like, um, those days at the bottom, I guess, kind of compound and you see how this. And in the 30s, if you live to see your 30s and stuff like that, you're living the life that they actually work for. You're just living the life that they actually work for. And it's like I usually watch my wife and kids and stuff like that. Not impossible for me, so you're just living my wife and kids. All these funny stuff. That's the funny thing about reaching this level, like all those funny days, bro. It's not out of reach. All those funny days is not out of reach. Just like, with us not in that phase. Those days where I wish I could get them back. You know, those days where I just found boomerang, boomer, boomerang, bro. Like, oh my god. No, I actually can go out and buy boomerang on demand, buy boomerang, and be like, will I actually love boomerang now? And all these stuff, I can buy boomerang on demand and all. Would I actually love boomerang? Or it just that was it the fact that I just got boomerang, I just got cable, that boomerang was exciting and all these stuff. Those are stuff you can actually see. Oh, these are stuff you're actually going out, work, focusing on your career, getting money and all these stuff. It's like, oh, when I actually get this stuff, you'll be like, oh, was it the excitement of actually getting it, or did we actually like this stuff? I mean, actually see yourself living the life. Where's yourself living the life? You're going to, and that's the thing about these years now. When I actually see me do the lecture and stuff like that, if I become a lecturer, I will become see me doing it for like 15 years and all this stuff. The 15th year of me doing it, you're gonna see me say something like, I actually love this thing. Like, I can only tell about 10 million stuff. I'll be like, oh yeah, I actually love this thing. I actually love doing this thing, this stuff now because I actually put in the work for years to say we went through all those bad days. We actually went through those bad days to say, oh, this is the light now. We actually prefer this day. This was the best day. This one day that I come and just talk about those random stuff like 10 million people was sleeping through. Yeah, yo. And we out this clocking in that 300 grand per year, 300 odd grand million per year. Yeah, we actually work for those life, brother. and those life is actually better than the other life that I'm out there. So going to be also going out and going out and be out there, so going through high school and be like, this person in this and that and all these stuff like that. Yeah, those life are actually better. Those are it's better for me to out there, so going out and lecturing to those 10 million people out there so sleeping, bro. I'm also telling you about thanks to Boney, bro. Bro, it's a board in this flight. It's actually going to be more fulfilling than me out there so telling you about Boney, bro. So it's like, that's the thing. Gonna be, but to reach there, that's the task, bro. That to reach there, to reach there, that is the task. To reach there is the task. So, but you're there to making progress. So that's basically it for this episode. I guess more. I guess the thing is that we still not reach the level where we can actually come in and do this full time. We still have to hold us being doing real life stuff and all this stuff. So I'm not listening, still not doing this full time. Listen me doing this stuff. Dropping a one episode. Hear me ranting and all these stuff. But these are we still can't do this full time. So all this have some other stuff we actually have to do. We actually have to do. And it's like, but when I actually see me notice doing this full time now, you'll be like, oh my god, bro, this is so fun, bro. This is so fun. You see me also doing this full time. See me, I'm a catering chef coming and just giving me the food and I was just talking every day and all this. I'm like, yeah. But then things and times come. Things and I guess the important thing in the adult is that before you can actually do this, so you have to actually can do it for yourself. You actually can do it for yourself now. Then when you actually come in now and say, okay, I want to offload some tasks to you, it doesn't it doesn't seem it doesn't see you actually can do it. You actually can, I can pay you to do this and all this stuff. You can actually pay to offload some tasks and stuff like that. You can pay to demand now to say, okay, actually I want this way and all these stuff and all these things. So you can actually pay to do this stuff and be like, oh yeah, we actually work for this stuff. What happens is that in your earlier years, those demands we actually couldn't make like at the time. Those demands we couldn't make at the time, so we actually had to do it ourselves. And not only that, we couldn't even afford the price. So same thing and it's an ongoing thing. We're like certain stuff we actually can't afford the price. We actually have to do it ourselves, but we actually but in our ways of doing it ourselves, we actually gain the skills, but also we actually can go when we actually go out and you see we not doing those stuff. You see we always say, oh, we're not doing those stuff again. Those stuff are passion stuff now. It'll be like, oh, we actually work for those. We actually work to not do those stuff. We actually work or we actually the person who's actually doing those stuff now actually getting properly compensated. All these are actually putting the groundwork now to actually know what we want. And it save the time. They come into the farm. That's the thing. They just come into the system and it's like, okay, now I have to just do this and that and boom bang quick. And with me account and all this stuff. And it's like, cool. It just come into the system, bro. But all those things don't happen overnight. You just see it happen. And you're like, oh my god, bro. Now it's just seeing us living that balling life. And it's like, cool. Yeah. But that's basically for this episode. Thank you for listening. I'll for the next episode.
Well, this is the end of the episode. Thanks for watching and look forward for the next episode. To support this podcast, go to anchor.fm/cssb/support or become a sponsor for this episode. If you have a product that you want to have more exposure, DM me on the Instagram page Reframing Mindset Podcast or on Twitter at ReframingP. Either way would help. Thank you regardless for listening, and here's a preview for the next episode.